So there's a lot of unique resources that we use, but to give you some insight, and perhaps the most important, really starts with the proprietary technology that we've developed. That technology, as I mentioned, is monitoring experts, literally millions of experts and thousands of unique specialties. It's culling the web for their experience, for the accolades that they might be receiving. If it's medical experts, we're looking at maybe who's being published. We're looking at academics. We're looking at their achievements. For non-medical, it's tracking and capturing information about perhaps who's being recognized by the various trade associations that they might be involved in. So first and foremost is that proprietary technology that really this entire process is built on. But in addition to that, there's a lot of different gathering data websites and subscriptions that we have, sometimes as common as things like LinkedIn, or again, trade association websites. And then, it might not be, too complex, but the reality, Betty, is sometimes we find ourselves like everyone else, on Google doing some diligence, but we've got well over 70 researchers on staff that have great experience on exactly where to look, beyond our existing technology and those subscriptions to make sure that we're finding that intricate data that can make a difference in identifying that perfect fit. That's a great question, and one we certainly get from time to time. The reality is if something occurred, if there's a niche case that's out there, a very unique personal injury matter, you think, for example, like the hydroblasting case, not a common company that you're going to find in every, executive park or strip mall. These niche cases are really where folks come to us to challenge us, and that's really where we've built our success, early on in the Expert Institute's history, is our ability to uncover those niche experts. Now, sometimes combining the niche experts with the preferences and parameters of an expert search, that could pose some challenges. So we are always going to identify, hey, with an attorney, what's your preferences in litigation history, as I mentioned earlier, or geography, as well as several other specific questions into what they feel their ideal expert would look like, come from, et cetera. And it's open dialogue with the attorney to understand that if we're running into some issues, perhaps we might not be able to find the specific expert in a certain area. We're always going to start our search from the inside out. We'll have that dialogue, but if there's a need, there's a challenging case out there, we continuously step up to the plate to deliver and work with the attorney to make some tweaks sometimes to the search to ensure that we can find the right person. If there might just have to be a little bit of give in some of the preferences at times, but we don't stop until the attorney's satisfied with who they are engaging with and retaining. Yeah, no, that's great, and obviously, you'd suspect that's a fair point that attorneys ask frequently. Is, hey, I can use a service like yours, but when I'm stuck. Oftentimes that might be the motivator to work with us initially, but once attorneys get exposure to our service and the process in which we go through, as I just outlined here for the last little bit, they start to realize that even in their more common needs, right, your more common, let's just call them slip and falls or MVAs, where there might be some redundancy or repeat type experts that they're working with, there's A, value in the time that we can save them. B, we're providing fresh voices, fresh perspectives so that they don't run into the risk of overusing their existing stable or roster of experts. It's not necessarily in place of those individuals, but if you're doing that same kind of work on a consistent basis, working with us can give you some exposure to some different perspectives and experts. Also, if they're using, again, some other services, our service and the way we're designed often saves them a great deal of money in how other services might charge for those more common experts that they find themselves often retaining. On the medical side, what makes us very unique is we actually have a team of 15 physicians in-house. And we work with hundreds of attorneys in that regard, where our doctors are helping these attorneys assess cases or answer specific questions related to medical records, injuries occurred on personal injury matters. so that they can avoid, the retainers and billable hours, just to help identify if they have a case, or to just answer a couple very specific questions. They're not having to, sort out to find that specialty. Our 15 doctors on staff go across numerous subspecialties. I won't list them all for the sake of time here, but general surgery, pediatrics, psychiatry, OBGYN, internal medicine. So we've got a long list of very qualified physicians that work with attorneys specifically in that regard, as essentially an extension of their office, to help assist in situations like you just outlined, in place of having to go through the process of sourcing an expert just to help even, evaluate a case for merit or ensure that the damages are what they think they can be. They can rely on our doctors in-house to do that. We don't have to go source an expert and wait for that process. We work with them hand in hand in that regard. So a couple things to unpack there. One, in terms of our fee, our expert search fee is standard price is $2,500. That $2,500 is all the revenue that we'll generate on an expert search. So that takes you through, when you think back 10, 15 minutes ago, to those 4 pillars and that data-driven process, the holistic candidate evaluation where we're screening them, doing the background checks, digging into their litigation history. All of that is part of that process. And we turn that around within, typically, depending on the specialty, most frequently 3 to 5 business days, where we are then presenting experts for the attorney to review, and then we'll coordinate conference calls for them to actually speak to the experts before they ever decide who they'd like to retain. So that $2,500 fee takes them through that exact process. If we need to expedite something, more quickly, then there could be some additional charge, because we simply need to assign more folks to getting that done. And that happens from time to time. You need something turned around in 24 to 48 hours. We frequently deal with that. So that's the price. Why we charge an upfront fee was the second part of your question. And in that, we're charging an upfront fee because the service that we provide is a very comprehensive search process. And that work is all done that fee is provided in place of any sort of markup on the expert's fees. Most third-party services, I'm sure many of you out there, have experience with other services at certain points in time. And how they traditionally work is they'll source experts, but they've got a set network, and they middleman the accessibility and the billing. They're really driving their revenue off of the billable hours of the expert. We believe in being much more transparent, and so we're very clear with what our fee is up front. Does guarantee to find a qualified expert for the case, but we're not generating any fees off of the billable hours down the line. And so especially on cases that are going to take a great deal of time, reports, maybe an inspection, if it's medical, perhaps an IME needs to be done. You're not on the clock with us from a financial perspective for those hours and hours that are accumulating of the expert's time. So our upfront fee is the only revenue that we generate. It eliminates any sort of bias in who we might source expert-wise, because their fees have no impact. And so that you're paying a true rate to the expert, no markups at all. And really our value is not, when that expert is on the stand, say 18 months from now. Our opinion is, again, transparency. We shouldn't be earning money at that point. Our value that we brought is really in that comprehensive search to ensure that you found the right fit out of the gate. In terms of, I just wanted to also share that's important, outside of just our expert search and that $2,500 on a case-by-case basis, we do offer something called our partnership program. And that is a very unique arrangement that does away with the per engagement cost and just proves to be a much more cost-effective way for plaintiff firms to work with us. Good question. No, there is no financial or contractual ties between us and the experts. It's like that by design for some of the reasons I just laid out and why our model is what it is from a pricing perspective. but also to ensure, less vulnerability, if at all, for the expert and their impact on that case. They have no financial or contractual relationship with us. So if they're asked that question under deposition or on the stand, it's a very different answer they're going to get versus your traditional third-party services.